Well, it's Monday night, ladies and gentlemen, and you know what that means. That means it's time for The Last Stand. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, here as always with my co-host, Jay Campbell. Nice to see you, Jay.
What's up, Jeffrey? How are you, brother?
I am doing great, brother. Thanks for asking. And tonight, we've got a very special guest with you, one of our favorite people, Matthew Belair. He's a one-of-a-kind author. He's a speaker. He's a conscious thought leader. He's a podcast host. He has so many areas of expertise that it would take the whole show to list them all. So let me just say, Matt, one of the things I love best about you is you're sitting in a yurt right now. Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, so good to see you guys again. And I was saying at the beginning of the show, you guys have been doing some amazing work. It's such an honor to be with you guys. And thanks so much for what you're doing.
Hey, we really appreciate that. And, we're here, not just to talk to people, not just to be, another weekly show, but we're trying to talk to people that are on the cutting edge, both in optimization and in spirituality, physical optimization, spiritual optimization, and also emotional optimization. And I think you're right at the point of the spear, that like the one over my head, on all of those areas. And Jay, thanks for getting Matt on the show tonight.
Yeah, Matt's an amazing dude, man. I met Matt, almost Matt? Was it 3 years ago now? Oh my God, it was 3 years ago. That's how fast time flies. We hung out in Arizona in, wow, dude, that was 2016 in January. That is crazy how fast that was.
Yeah, you came up, man. I appreciated that. We met and we did a podcast. Someone was like, you got to have this guy on your podcast. And I just remember being like, holy crap, this guy is a machine. Like how much you were able to do in a week. I just like, I'm not doing anything. Oh my God. But yeah, you went out of your way to make it a face-to-face. And I always appreciate you for that.
Yeah. And Matt did some amazing heart meditations with me too. And he, volunteered and did it out of his own goodwill. And we've had an amazing relationship. I mean, Matt is truly a very high vibrational spirit and being. And I had to say this and throw this out right now. Gary Carlson graded your soul, and you are the same level as Jeffrey Daugherty. Not as high.
Sorry to hear that, Matt.
But you are a 56 Wanderer soul score. So that's pretty awesome.
Wow.
I knew you would be. And Gary actually asked me, he was like, can you guess him? And he's at least a 56, and he's either like Jeff, a Wanderer, or Starseed. But it's pretty awesome. But no, Matt, it's great to have you, man. We're humbled and honored and privileged to have you here today.
And Matt, just so you know, there are some people in the chat room that are giving big shout outs to your beard. So much work on much praise for the righteous beard work.
He's got the beard.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm getting geared up, man. I'm in Nelson, British Columbia, ready to just snowboard finally after 2 years off. So I'm going to be in the mountains using this thing.
It's awesome.
Fantastic. You're going to be out there shredding, huh?
Yes, man. Of course.
Perfect. Jay Campbell, I know you have put together a great set of questions and talking points tonight. What do you say we dive right in and let's get rock and roll? And I know you mentioned off the cuff before we went live that we had Laura Eisenhower last week, and she was such a high vibration individual and brought everybody's frequency up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Matt would be the perfect guy to follow that up. I agree 100%.
Yeah, no, he is. And Matt is the perfect person. And as I was telling these guys off air, I'll just lead into this with like a shocking revelation. One of my family members, who I would consider as, very intelligent, very left brain, but not where we're at, in the consciousness space. He sent a message. I told the guys, like, I always kind of like try to get under the skin of my family because we have like these giant family text message threads, and they were talking about the Catholic religion. And I put a post in there that said, all of the organized religions of the earth have been corrupted by the quote unquote demiurgic, inversion, which is obviously David Icke's labeling and description of whatever, the false light is of this, darkness. And he actually wrote back, Jay, after 5 years of careful introspection, I agree with you. And I was like, I'm like shocked. I almost fell over. I was like, oh my God. And so the point of why I'm telling everybody this is that, as Jeff and I continue to say, and I know Matt agrees with us, the consciousness of this planet, due to cosmic energy and a lot of other things right now, is raising, and it is raising quickly, and sometimes in ways that you can't even comprehend it. And people that you would normally assume are just completely asleep just are choosing to wake up now. And so it's amazing that we're experiencing this. And I would say that, that is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, we started with this because like I gave you some topics of the show, and I
Yep.
went to the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto with Native American elder David Lombear Senepass.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to write an article where I'm compassionate about somebody and their beliefs and what they have, but it seems like religions get this pass where like, the Catholic Church and, what they did with like all the crimes against the Catholic Church, or, the school systems putting in Native Americans, coming and massacring people, things like that. Why do you get a pass? How do I write this compassionately, but also do the research of the truth and figure out what's going on here? And in this article, with you guys, I can speak a little bit more like openly about it. But what I've kind of come across is it's like a form of black magic, like when you look at Wizard of Oz, right? You're saying, hey, this is God, this is Wizard of Oz, but really there's somebody behind there. And do you want to know if there's something behind there? And I think that all the religions, I gave the ideas like if you were a 10-year-old kid who didn't know anything, how would you choose the right one? And you can distinguish like a religion from an ideology, where like Confucianism and Buddhism done right is more like an ideology. It's a set of guidelines. Where religion can be a little bit more rigid, and there's a consequence and reward. And so, it's a really interesting thing. And I just got back from Guatemala, where I went to the Mayan heart ceremony, and they did a Mayan fire ceremony with these other indigenous elders. It's the first ceremony in Tikal after 200,000 were murdered in the early 90s because they wanted to do their ceremony. And now I know a Mayan elder, a Mi'kmaq elder, and a Zuni elder who all say the exact same thing, which is essentially that religions, they try to wipe us out. It's a form of spiritual, what do they call it? Just it stunts your spirituality because they use a truth, but it only lets you get here because you can't go behind and understand that there's somebody behind that Wizard of Oz. And that's what we need to get past, is that conditioning. And so I think that with the show, what I was hoping to just chat about was like, what you guys think is going on in the planet. How do we create that connection with ourselves, and also what we're capable of in this life? Because there's so much bullshit out there now. It gets super confusing. People are lost, and it's like, it's breaking old paradigms. Then we get into this new idea, but in the new age world, people are talking a lot of smack too with no grounded information. You've got these fake shamans giving you drugs and then, but nothing else. And, it's a bit of a shit show out there.
So we'll say that I'll let Jeffrey have the last stand because the last statement on religion, because he's the true expert here. But we've covered this topic many times on our show, Matt. And, I've gone crazy and screamed at people, as Jeff knows. Listen, at this point, if you do not understand that the organized religions of the earth have been co-opted by the demiurgic inversion, which again is whatever you want to manifest in your physical form as Lucifer, Enlil, Enki, Satan, Chitauri, whatever you want to call that dark, malevolent force that we use as this kind of metaphor. That's what it is. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist at this point to understand that the Catholic religion is satanistic / Luciferian / devil worshiping / child molesting, pedophilia, ritual sex magic. I mean, I don't even know what is going on with the Catholic Church, but they are a disgrace. And if this hurts you when I say that, and it bothers you that I say that, then you are under the God spell, as Jeffrey says, and you need to wake up, cousin, because it's all true. This is how they've enslaved us for centuries. It goes back further than that. Matt, you just talked about it. The rape and the pillage of the indigenous, what they've done conquesting people in the Philippines. I mean, the Catholics have just literally conquested every place on earth at some point in time. And it's all at the instruction, again, of the demiurge, again, however you want to quantify it. And that's where we're at. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, it really does my heart good to hear people talking about this and saying these things and waking up to this to a greater extent. I've been doing this for about 5 years, but only with any expertise or trying to actually figure things out for a couple of years. And for a long time, I felt like the only guy out there, saying these types of things. But after being a minister for 20 years and seeing the cracks and the foundation of big time religion, the one thing that I have realized above all else is that there's a huge difference between spirituality, and religion. And if I could boil it down into one simple thought, the fact of the matter is, the more religious you are, following rules, regulations, do's, don'ts, creeds, credos, doctrines, the more religious you are, the less able you are to be spiritual, truly spiritual.
Exactly.
And the more spiritual you are, the less likely you are to be religious. Spirituality says we're divine, we're sovereign, we're free. Religion is fitting you into one form of a fear and guilt control matrix or another. And I'm so glad that people are now waking up and realizing it's not God that was wrong, it was religion. And now we're finding a path away from man-made religions and into true spirituality and connection with the universe. And I'm thankful for guys like Matt Belair, Jay Campbell, and I continue to do my little bit. And I think that we're going to get there, gentlemen.
Without a doubt, dude. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, Matt, I'm going to get into your other topics, and I want to, you hit on a lot of them in your conversation. We're going to go bit by bit. Did you want to talk specifically about David Lonebear's technology?
Always, man. Always. So, David Lonebear is the Native American elder of the Mi'kmaq people. His story is he spent the first 26 years of his life on the side of a mountain being trained by over 600 elders. In studying with him this summer, he said that some of those were beings.
Wow.
The elders of the Mi'kmaq, the Zuni, and when I went down to Mayan culture, say the same thing. The star people, sky people, they're already here. They've always been here. They're in our history. All of their histories are 20,000 years old. All of them I spoke to independently that they didn't know each other said the same thing from different eras and different times. So I'm corroborating this stuff. I show up and see what the heck is going on, trying to figure it out. And so everything David Lonebear has built has worked. He sent balloons. We were at Disclosure Fest with Laura Eisenhower. There were all these speakers. He stood up there with Clifford Mahooty, the Zuni elder, saying, hey, guys, they're in our history. And David goes, I put balloons in space, 800,000 feet, that have photos and videos. Who do I give those to? Nobody asked him a question. Right. Not one person asked him a question. That's why I'm still hanging out with him, because I was trying to figure out if he was serious. It's like, wait, are you serious, man? It's nuts. And so, so what else did he? So he sent balloons in his own world record, 800,000 feet up into space with technology. He's invented a 3-pole magnet, which I think is the precursor to anti-gravity. He built a bike that went 60 miles an hour on an electric motor. It's now broken because he went homeless a year and a half ago and had to put his stuff in storage, and it got all busted. And now he's working on something called a resonator. All of this stuff is from ancient copper scrolls, I shit you not, which I've seen. And he's like, I'm not inventing any of this. I'm doing the schematics of what's on here. He's like, I'm just doing the science. And so apparently this resonator, a 4-foot tall one, will be able to power your house and create an electromagnetic field. So it's funny because I give him like all the ET stuff, all the science stuff, EMF, stuff like that. And he's like, so part of what he was taught by his elders was math, engineering, physics, chemistry, biology. And I vetted his math with Robert Grant. I have a podcast with Robert, and Robert's a brilliant mathematician. And Robert vetted his math, and I have the conversation recorded. I'm not allowed to share it, unfortunately. But it goes math that I didn't understand, space, ETs, Knights Templar, and the Mi'kmaq. So Robert Grant's great-great-grandfather is Robert the Bruce of the Knights Templar.
Wow.
And when they came over, guess who they met? The Mi'kmaq Native Americans. But in that story, the Mi'kmaq were not primitive. They helped them. They were advanced. And so he's trying to share some of these technologies. And his elders said, you can have it in a community in resonance. You guys need to have peace first. And that's what they talked about at Disclosure Fest.
Well, Matt, I have a question. So go back to what he's saying. So if we can analyze this a little bit deeper, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I know you have a bunch of other amazing topics.
This is great. I'm loving it.
Yeah, exactly. So if he has this technology, he has copper scrolls. And this is, I think, a very resonant point right now in the truth community, because so many people are talking about the mud flood, and they're talking about the timelines. Jeff and I have been talking about this a lot too. The timelines don't even make sense anymore. We have like gematria, we have the Mandela effect, we have CERN, we have all this stuff that seemingly is telling us, well, not seemingly, we know it's a simulation. But if it is a simulation, then you got to also start understanding or thinking abstractly, that time is not even relevant, right? Because we're in this third dimensional realm. And so time is linear to us, but if you're at a higher frequency, it's not. So it doesn't even make any sense. So what I'm saying is, if this guy has these copper scrolls, dude, he's obviously he has these from a previous human civilization that was either wiped out or extincted, that was way more in advance than where we are now. And obviously, again, we know about Atlantis, or we think we know about Atlantis. We think we know about Lemuria before that. I mean, who knows how many civilizations of high tech mankind has actually already had and has been wiped out through extinction level events, maybe aliens, maybe some sort of simulation flip. John Pinella talks about it just ends and it starts over, it reboots. So, I mean, we don't really know, but I mean, I have a feeling that, that's what that guy has access to. And yes, he's got this massive intel from these elders, and these people obviously maintain lineages going back centuries, if not millennia. So that's what my guess is he got these scrolls from a previous civilization. I'm sure it was probably Native American.
And Matthew, before you dive in, this is one of the reasons why religion is so rigid. Religion is so rigid. Why religion is such a fear and guilt control matrix, because it has to control the agenda. Because if we find out that actually the people that were way before us knew way more than us, then it undercuts the foundation of all of this foolishness that we're dedicated to right now. So religion has to protect itself by condemning and keeping the truth away from us from the great and massive understanding of our forefathers. We're not the most developed. We're the runts of the litter, aren't we?
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I don't know what it was, but I just saw the bullshit right away. I didn't have an awakening experience. I was just like, this is horseshit. Like, how are you guys believing this? It's so absurd what we go along with right now. And yeah, the interesting thing I spent all summer with David trying to figure out if he was legit. You know what I mean? His stories were so out there, but of all of the stuff that I've heard, Lemuria, Atlantis, different things, when him and Clifford Mahooty spoke, they were both congruent. They both had the same history. In David's history, Atlantis wasn't a continent. It was a spaceship, and there are 12 other spaceships.
By the way, I totally believe that is true.
Wow.
I totally believe that
it's in their history.
Matt, you're saying Atlantis was not a continent, it was a ship?
That's what David Lombear says.
Wow. I totally believe that to be true. I mean, I don't know it, but I mean, I've heard stories too, Jeff. The same thing. What's his name? We haven't had on the show yet. The guy that hiddenrecords.com, Wayne.
Wayne Herschel.
He talks about impressions that are in the land masses of different planets right now that look like they were impressions of gigantic ships that landed on this planet. So it's possible.
One of the things that him and Clifford have been saying is just like, you're not the big and bad here. You think that you're the lions and you're probably in the middle. They're already going on and off. And I asked him about the other ETs. He's like, I was like, why don't they help us? He's just like, well, how much do you care about your duck population? I was like, what? He's just like,
exactly.
He's like, all these people communicating with ETs is like, don't you find it interesting that they're all speaking English? He's just like, what makes you think that they speak English? He's just like, they would have a whole, like, how do ants think? And he always like gives me this little tip. But there's stories within like hanging out with David that I haven't been there, but going on a retreat with him. And in the middle of the night, apparently everyone said it just lit up like the day. And then the ground shook and they came out of their tents and they looked up and there was a ship above them and they all saw it. I didn't see it. But I had a bunch of people that I met. They're like, oh, no, we saw that. And for them, a lot of the people he's been going around speaking this stuff, I've found two kind of distinct things. Number one, you think it's way too friggin' out there. It's Star Trek and Star Wars. And you're like, this guy's Native American. That's just too much. I'm not even going to go there. The second time is like the disclosure group. You're into ETs. You're into bigger thinking. You're looking down the rabbit hole. But what he always says, he's like, you're fixed in what you think. He's just like, I can't bring this information to you. He's only been sharing this 5 years because you already know it. So when we spoke in Sedona, nobody asked him really a question anyway. Everyone's trying to tell him stuff. And I was like, if you spend 26 years of your life, you don't know anything about a Native American culture or their history, is 20,000 years old. The guy's humble as crap. He's not selling any books. Every technology he makes works and has balloons in outer space. maybe you listen for a moment and you don't tell them what you think, and you'd say, okay, what else are you willing to share? What else do you know?
And Matthew, again, I go back to religion. On this continent, the Christian religion was front and center on wiping out the indigenous native populations. Yes, it was probably for land. Yes, it was probably for wealth. But right now, as I'm sitting here, I'm understanding there's a far deeper, far more far-reaching reason why they did their very best to wipe out the native population. It's because they had the truths and the realities and the understandings that would crumble this this fear and guilt control matrix. That's why they've tried to wipe it out. That's why they've tried to keep it down. And that's one of the reasons why about 2 years ago, even though I personally was not involved, through my lineage and because of my heritage, I have made a apology to the Native American groups of this continent for what the atrocities done to them. And I think if we could do this as a nation and as a people, us of white people, it would make a big difference. And that they've been trying to keep the truth from us for so long. And that's the main reason why they wiped out the indigenous populations, I believe.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Gerald Clark talks about that, in dramatic fashion, since the conquistadors. I mean, everybody does that researches this, but something going back to the ships. And I've been really busy lately with doing all kinds of stuff and building all kinds of things I'm doing in my optimization realm and dealing with personal tragedy and loss. But this weekend in Los Angeles, they were spraying the skies. Now, a lot of people in the Decoders of Truth group knows this because people were sharing photos of chemtrails and like optical reflections of like what looked like rainbow portals. I know I sent one to you, Jeffrey, but like people are showing these all over the world. Now, some people, experts, quote unquote, have said it, look, that's just a sunlight reflection off of the barium and the strontium and, whatever other crap they're spraying in the skies. But I can definitely tell you guys this. On Saturday night, I was setting up this new computer in my office, and I got all these text messages from people, my wife included, Monica, and she said, dude, you got to go outside. It was obviously dark, but she's like, look up in the sky. Look how bad they're spraying right now. And I'm like, okay. So I went out after I took a second. I took all the trash out to our dumpster at the end of my business, my office park. And as I'm there, I'm taking pictures. I have them. I'm not going to share them right now, but I've never seen anything like it. There were planes going through the sky on Saturday night in LA in the dark, spraying. And it was even in the pitch black. You could see that they were trying to obscure whatever, or they were lining the skies with whatever. Within the frame of my, iPhone 8 Plus, not even zoom, just magnified with the, the square, isolating it and focusing it. I saw all kinds of ships, dude. Like I saw the TRBs, the triangles with the green lights. I mean, it's just, they're everywhere. And you can't see them to your naked eye unless you're focusing your camera and you just happen to be up there. But I've seen them before. If you live out in Southern California, you drive, between Vegas and LA, and you drive late at night, you'll see all kinds of that stuff. My daughter even captured a picture one time of a TRB. They're very common planes. They're obviously not alien ships. They're us, right? But they're triangles. And so I saw those on Saturday night and they're spraying in the sky. So it's like, what are they doing? What is the point? What are they trying to obscure? And, I don't know. And I don't think any of us knows, right? Like I've actually heard people say that recently that, look, the chemtrails are actually, they're doing stuff to keep our ionosphere stable so the poles don't flip. So maybe there is some truth to the idea that they're actually spraying to keep us around. I don't know. I want to think that it's negative, but we really don't know. But I just wanted to say that to you, that ships in the sky now are very commonplace. How many people actually look up? So many people are asleep. And the next point we're getting to is optimization and spiritual practices. But so many people live today asleep. My daughter sent us that picture that I sent to Jeffrey that I posted in the Decoders of Truth group. And she was looking up in the car, riding home from her practice on Saturday afternoon. She sent it to me. She goes, Daddy, look at this. And I have the video. I mean, I could play it. We could share the screen. I should probably play it. It's absolutely amazing. It's like a 12-second video of like this rainbow portal in the sky. And then I put it in the group, and all these people from around the world are sharing the same photos from the same day. So it's crazy what's happening right now. So, I mean, we really are in an incredible time. I just don't think that a lot of us appreciate, because we have no idea what's going on. There's so much obfuscation.
Matthew, have you seen the footage from the balloons that your friends has sent up?
Not yet, no. And he's kind of frustrating in a way because he's a lot. I describe him as Mr. Miyagi, and you ask him a straightforward question, and you do not get a straightforward response. And over time, I realize why. And you know, one of the things, like when we were at Disclosure Fest, is like, I said to him, why didn't you share it? He goes, look at YouTube. He's just like, you have so much crap on there, it's gonna get lost in the mix. Nobody will believe it. He's just like, we need to figure out a way where he's like, my elders told me there's a protocol for how you guys get this. And it's a certain amount of people actually being in resonance with each other. And it makes sense. It's like, why would you? He's like, you were there. He's like, no matter what I said, nobody would have asked me the same question. He's like, they're stuck in their beliefs. And it's like, that's really true.
You guys, there's a bunch of people asking in the group. Let me share this real quick. I'll share the screen.
And Matthew, I want you to talk about how you think we get to that resonance before we get out of here. Okay.
100%. And yeah, I think I'll ask him. I think you guys should have him on the show. Every conspiracy thing I've asked him, and so on that one day I was like, what about this conspiracy? He's like, no. He's just like, do you want me to tell? He's like, I'm a scientist. Do you want me to tell you what I think or what you're hearing? I was like, I guess the truth. He's like, I research it. And I go, okay, what about the chemtrails? He's like, true. And he's like, but they're not what you think they're for. And I was like, well, what are they for? He's like, was it Yellowstone? He's like, Yellowstone's going to go. Your government knows this, and they're going to try to figure out a way to stabilize it. On the conspiracy side, he goes, but you know what? He's like, you know those bridges you have? He's like, those are planetary resonators. They put out a signal. He's like, I got sent photos when they were built, and there's gold and platinum. If you look at the Boston Bridge, is a tuning fork. He's like, I got sent pictures when they were built, and there's gold and platinum that sent out a signal. You can Google, look at my YouTube channel. You can see a bunch of stuff with David. And on there, you have the biodome. He's like, the biodome creates an inverse magnetic field that will put you in a positive vibrational environment. This one puts you in one that keeps you a little bit confused. And so, you know, it's very fascinating stuff. But like I said, the interesting thing is everything he's built has worked. So I'm still on the train figuring it out.
And, you know, Matthew, the way that Boston Bridge looks, it came to my mind. I'm from Tampa Bay area, and they built a new bridge here a few years back, Sunshine Skyway Bridge, same type of bridge. And I've noticed a lot of the new bridges are of that construction. And it may well be that they're all, or at least a lot of them are including that tuning fork technology that your friend's talking about.
And as I understand it, with this and he's done all this in poverty with no help from anyone,
which is amazing.
When the biodome's up, apparently it'll do a positive inverse magnetic field. And he's just like, and I was like, he's like, it'll be like you meditated for like 100 years. And he's like, and you know, you'll have like more awareness. And I was like, well, what do you have to do? He's like, well, do you need to be spirit? Well, he was talking about like time travel or some shit one day about like talking to he said like he saw his grandpa, and I was like, I thought your grandpa was dead. He's like, he was, but time doesn't work the same way it does. Right. I was like, what? And I was like, well, how? He's just like, well, you have portals all over your planet. I was like, okay. And I was
okay,
like, well,
so let's play this right now because I want to see if this is a portal. Okay. I want people to see this. I'll just share it. It's a 10-second video. Hold on one second. Let me just share the screen.
Yeah, share.
This is awesome stuff.
Yeah. All right, here we go. All right. So again, this is from my daughter, Alex. It's a 12-second video.
Oh, and it's daytime.
Hold on. All right, ready? So look right there where my mouse is. You guys see that?
Oh,
yeah.
Look at that. It's not precipitation. It's not a rainbow. It literally is like a rainbow portal right there. And I have pictures on it too. So here's the picture. Look at the picture.
Ooh.
I don't know.
What is that? Look at the chemtrails. You see all those chemtrails? Yeah. I mean, it was vicious on Saturday. That was anyway from Saturday. I'll stop screen sharing, but people wanted to see it. But I mean, again, is it maybe an optical reflection from sun into, you know, again, the chemtrails, or is it a portal? And all these people are seeing these all over the planet. Is it the time right now where, quote unquote, the good guys are cleaning up? I don't know. I mean, again, I'd like to hope that that's the case. I don't really know. It's fascinating.
Yeah, on the portal thing, when I asked him about it, I was like, "Do you have to like do some training or protocol?" And he goes, "Well, do you need to be spiritual to take an elevator?" And I was like, "No." It's like, "Well, there you go." But one of the things that he said, an interesting Clifford Mahooty, when they did a talk in Sedona, that I got them together because I knew Clifford Mahooty independently, right? And I was like, Clifford, you got to vet this Native American guy for me because he's saying some wild stuff. And those two talking together in private was the gnarliest thing that I have ever seen. I'll give you actually an example of something that scared the shit out of me. We go down to Sedona, and David says they're gonna come, and I said, who? He's just like, the people who don't want us here. And he's like, there's good ETs and there's bad ones. He's just like, they're gonna come. And I was like, okay, whatever. That, I don't know what that means. I'm already committed. We touch down, and it is the craziest storm. I got to put up some footage of it. When we're driving to Clifford's house in Sedona, the sky was like orange with the craziest colors I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's like, they're fighting up there. He's just like, they got colors.
Oh,
like,
there's no doubt. We've heard that from many people, Matt.
Wow.
Yeah. So we go, and like, it's the gnarliest storm I've ever seen. And I'm just like, this is nuts. And he's showing me he has on his phone, he's got the weather mapping, and you can see perfectly round weather maps, they're all is like, is that just how it shows up? He's like, no, that's like, it shouldn't be round. Like, that's a thing. And it's like moving forward like that. And I'm watching this as I look behind me at the craziest lightning, gnarly sky. Okay. So we get there, and David's like, no, this is significant. A Mi'kmaq and a Zuni have never shared knowledge with the non-natives together.
Wow.
He's only been sharing this for 5 years. We are not aware of this information. These scrolls were given to him by his elders. It's all of the Mi'kmaq knowledge of 20,000 years. Imagine we kept an oral history for 20,000 years unbroken, and we had like the hard drive, be like, what is this hard drive? You wouldn't know, right? And so it's all on there. He just has to go through the science and schematics. Anyway, we do.
Why haven't we heard from him? Why aren't we hearing from him? Why isn't he front and center?
I'm shouting loud from the mountaintops for the last year about this guy. I spent all summer with him, man. Like,
Matt, he has a platform here anytime he's willing to come.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make it happen. Yeah. Go deep with him. So we get to Sedona. He does the talk. Clifford says, my friend's coming. You guys know what My Lab is? It's like military.
Yeah, of course. My Lab's MK Ultra. Yeah.
Right. And say, what is it? Kids that get abducted or something?
Yeah. It's like, so the My Lab kids are the kids from Stranger Things.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, okay.
So this girl is like, Clifford's like, she's in My Lab. She's going to come, right? So she gets stalled. She gets there. I have to pick her up the first day. And she's like, yeah, I got abducted twice. One time I got chipped twice, and blood. I woke up in a motel and blood was smeared down my pillow, and I know I got chipped. I think that this is super cool because I'm learning, well, not really cool, but like My Lab, and I'm learning about aliens, and like, holy shit, like this stuff is for real, because you look at it and you're like, what if this is real and what is not real? It's very confusing, but I was like, okay, cool. We could do aliens, right? Get to the spot, shows up, and she pulls in, and David and Clifford are talking. David stops talking instantly. She's walking around. She doesn't say anything. And so she comes up and says, hey, David, something. Yeah, I got chipped. Like, can you kind of help me with that or something? He goes, okay, can I see you first? Can I see your hand? Takes this thing out of his pocket, touches her hand, and her phone rings instantly. Picks it up, talks to a person on the phone, hangs up, and goes, that was just my doctor. He's like associated with something. I talked to David after. He goes, everybody has a chip has some sort of connector here, and that's who that was. And my body shook because it was like, it was something that I saw like quickly. And like, he's like, the old ones could do video and sound. The new ones can do thermal scanning, things like that. And they want to know what Clifford and I are talking about. And that was the gnarliest thing I've ever experienced in person. And watching those two talk, it was like David Icke. You guys had him on the show, which is right.
Not yet.
Amazing.
Not yet, but he's coming.
They're like, he's like David Icke times 1,000, man. Like, their history is 20,000 years, and you can only get there if you go Mr. Miyagi. You got to earn it. And they're giving me bit by bit by bit, and it's gnarly shit. So that's the end of that story. So yeah, so the chip.
Well, she said she had the chip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what they've said is, Clifford also said that in their time, technology and spirituality were one. So when the Smithsonian and the Catholic Church came, they took the tech, but they lived in harmony simply. So one of the things they constantly say is like, you just need to be in resonance. It's your big upgrade for humanity is peace. Yeah. No matter what you believe, believe in Catholic, believe in Jew, believe in believe in Jew. That's a ridiculous statement. Sorry, guys. But like whatever your religion would be, believe in Bigfoot. It doesn't matter. Just be able to be together without murdering each other. Then you're going to have an upgraded consciousness and you're going to be able to be given more information. You're not ready for this level yet because he goes on our last podcast. He goes, well, if you look at your planet and then ET's and they're looking at you and you have these billboards of like cows all cut up. He's like, that may as well be human. It's not a safe space. You know, it's just like, why would they want to come here? It's a very violent space. He's like, we are trying to help you.
Wow, that's amazing. Matthew, did you ever think that meeting Toth would be like way down on the list of the most gnarly things that ever happened to you? Because it's dropping with the more experiences you have.
Oh yeah, man, I know. And that story is like so nuts too. And that kind of like, man, I don't even know what to think about that. People talk about these like crazy experiences. And I have like the photo, David said some stuff about that too. And the weird thing about that experience was the energy state that I got stuck in. But what I'm finding now in like when I wrote in the spiritual new age stuff is like, so many of us want to be like, okay, we're going to go 5D and enlightenment and float on a cloud and all this. And I still want that. It sounds amazing. But it's not about any of that. It's literally getting more grounded. Like
Absolutely.
With all of this stuff, if like the best teaching that I got from David so far was in any spiritual teaching was 3 kind acts a day, go out of your way to do it and don't tell anyone. I guess in Atlantis, they had a pillar, a big golden, or maybe it was gold or emerald. He said on one of my podcasts with the 10 principles and everybody was taken care of. And that's how their society worked.
I'm pretty sure it was emerald and it made the emerald tablets.
Do 3 kind acts a day and don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Wow. Could you imagine the world that we would live in if everybody would do that?
Yep.
Regardless of what you believe.
Regardless of what you believe.
You do, you know, if you could do one thing on the planet, right? And think about it. And maybe everybody meditates. That sounds good, right? Whatever. But if it were 3 kind acts and everybody did that.
Yeah.
That would be it. And it makes perfect sense.
You talk about resonance, Matthew. Think of the group combined resonance that would be created if each of us would do 3 kind acts a day and not tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
And these are the things too. And I say it on my podcast, it's like, if my podcast does anything, if it can make the kindness challenge go viral, 3 kind acts a day for a week, go out of your way to do it. Asking someone's name counts, which is ridiculous because we're getting more in ourself and separated when we need to learn how to do these simple things and just look and talk to each other and like be normal humans. But I say, if you do that for a week, you'll probably get a universal wink. And he told me once, he goes, you know, your electrical engineers are more spiritual than most of your spiritual people because they're actually doing something. And what I was taught, there's only electricity, you only have electrical energy here. And when you do an active kind, an actual action, you're creating an electrical charge within the body. It's like the fastest way to know spirit, to increase your consciousness, to activate your DNA and all that stuff. And he's like, and your DNA does have an antenna, is to do those kind acts. So it's so simple. It's like those spiritual practices, like he says, are like very, very simple. So some of the things I'm doing is like going in cold water, getting out in nature more, doing the kind acts. But the people who have done it have gotten universal winks, like the Toth thing, you know? It's just like, what the hell was that?
Matthew, what does going in cold water do?
Something I don't know exactly. Again, it's a Mr. Miyagi thing. A lot of it I have to just go do it, and I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm writing an article about it. It's like wax on, wax off. Then all of a sudden, well, when I was in Guatemala, I had a gun pulled on me for the first time in a Guatemalan forest.
Wow,
and that was interesting. And I just stayed perfectly calm.
So right now, you're just taking your jacket off the hanger and putting it back on the hanger, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but what I think it does is something with the water is important and electromagnetism. So grounding to the earth, connecting to like what's here, being fully present in the mystery. So look at shows like yours. Cold water up to if you can. Yeah.
You know, my mom told me not to go out in the cold water because I'd get sick. She was wrong, right?
I think it's with your magnetic field. And apparently one girl, one of the girls in the group had Lyme. And that was one of the practices she was given, and she was really debilitated, and it really helped her. And there was another girl with a serious problem. He said, oh yeah, she was cold. He's like, just go in cold water up to your knees every day. And then her circulation went on. So it's one of those.
Now I'm asking you a serious question. Do you have to do it in the nude?
You probably preferred.
Jay laughs. See, I knew I was on this.
Nice conversation. Nice point.
I'm sure
we really appreciate that.
Jay, with a body like yours, everything should be in the nude, but it's just a marvel.
But Matt, you know,
and I have this joke that I made last time we were on. I'm going to use it again here because it's a perfect one. If you look at the 3 websites that the gentleman represented here tonight, I'm the only one on my website that has a shirt on.
I think. Yeah, my top one's got a shirt on.
Only I have a couple of new ads for some new products that we're selling. But back to what you're saying though. The Earth, you're talking about the Earth's energy. Okay. And Jeff and I have made a very big point about grounding and earthing, and obviously earthing, you know, I have all the studies, you know, people come at me in like the science realm, which, you know, I hang out in most of my time, and they laugh at me when I talk about earthing and using the energies of Mother Earth, Gaia, to heal, to reduce inflammation, to do all this. And then I say to them, and they have no response, of course, I say, you need to read my book in chapter 16, because I have 24 peer-reviewed studies, peer-reviewed, scientific rigor on the value of earthing and what it does to whole body inflammation. It's absolutely amazing. Everyone should be channeling the Earth's energy in some capacity or form every day. You can go outside and put your feet in the grass. You can sun gaze. You can obviously put your feet in cold water, a babbling brook. But you should definitely embrace the power of the Earth's energies. And I don't know if I've said this so far on the show, Jeff. I know you and I have talked about it because I sent you guys the link. But my wife bought me Ultimate Whatever's grounding mat. I can't think of the company. I'm standing on one right now for Christmas. And we put it on our king size bed and we sleep on it every night. And it's changed my life. It's plugged into a wall, it's grounded, and it's a grounding mat. And so while you're sleeping on this mat, you are channeling and harnessing the Earth's energies. It completely changes the game for you at sleep because it reduces inflammation and it gets you in such a deep state of sleep, which is polyphasic sleep, that you don't move. So for me, because I never slept well, I probably have blue light, you know, sensitivity issues. I'm too on my computer doing too much all the time. I would just be disturbed and I'd be rolling over, and then you get up and you go to the bathroom, and then some people go to the bathroom multiple times. But when you're in the Earth's energy field and you sleep, you don't even move. You're completely unconscious. You're drooling all over yourself. You know, so it's like it's an amazing form of sleep. And everyone, again, as you're saying, should be embracing the Earth's energies. It can heal you in every capacity. People that have been severely injured, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, you know, other kind of joint and tendon issues, it heals them.
Matthew, do you have any other little practices like that you can share? One, going into cold water. What would be another one?
Yeah, it's you know, again, with him, it's like always been just really interesting things. So one of the things that I started to do was I started to do night running. And training Shokai. And so I don't know if everyone should do this, but I started to do it because I'm afraid of the dark, like really dark, you know, not just like normal dark, like really dark. It frightens me. So he's like, hey, go running in the night. And I had these interesting owl experiences, man. And like what it does, like this type of, I was running. Yeah, dude. So the first owl experience I had, I was listening to him speak in Boston, and I was playing my flute in the dark because I'm terrified of the dark. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And there's an owl in the tree all of a sudden, and he starts hooting. And so I'm playing back and forth with him. And then we're doing this for a while. Then I hear a growl in the forest, and I hear another growl. So then I run away because it's pitch black. And I realized that's an owl because it changed his pitch. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't know owls could growl. So fast forward to the night running. I'm running through the night, maybe the second week in, and I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable. And something scratches the top of my head. So I like scream and I look up and I was like, oh my God, I look around. I can't see anything. It's the middle of the night in this dark forest. So I start to run again and I look behind me and I see these wings and a tail coming at me. And I was like, oh shit. And I just duck. And this owl just goes up in the forest and then is looking at me and just stays in the tree where I can see it. So I post that. And then I look up online and someone's like, you got to watch this. And it's an 1.5-hour documentary on this guy doing a presentation about the connection between owls and UFOs and ETs.
Yeah. Dude, you know, owls are a hugely spiritual creature.
Yep.
Yeah. And the only 2 times I saw it were one with David, one with the night training doing the thing. And what I really liked about this guy's talk was they can see at the night. They can see in the night. You know what I mean? That's why I was doing it. I was afraid of the dark. They can see through the night. They're messengers and they're multidimensional. They can go forward and back. And I asked David, I was like, cause I give him all the stuff and usually he doesn't agree with 99% of it, but I was like, are owls like special to Native Americans? He's like, very. And I was like, cool. He doesn't give me more. I can't go read a book and figure out the rest, but I was like, that's really fascinating stuff. So
Matthew, you know what this all reminds me of a little bit?
What?
I kind of like picture you as like Snow White out there, and you're out there playing your flute, and all the animals are hopping up, and the owls are sitting there. So you're like Snow White.
Oh, bro, I wish it's a lot messier than that, but that would be super great. Just imagine like a grumpy, clumsy Bigfoot. But I just doing
Matthew, let me hear you go. Oh, ho, ho.
No. Oh man. But yeah, it's stuff like that. And so getting in nature, going in water, testing yourself, being in silence and solitude, 3 kind acts, those are things. And I was going to ask you guys, like, we're in this thing of trying to figure out what reality is, right? So, you know, some people say we're in a simulation. I had Tom Campbell on my podcast, one of the leading physicists on simulation. Then David come up and say, David, same thing. He's like, you're in a simulation.
Absolutely.
He's like, you have 2 spirit guides, a positive and a negative, not to be mistaken with good and bad, because the body is the ground in the simulation. He's like, he said, I can prove this mathematically. And I was like, and they showed me, and I didn't know what the hell he showed me. I was like, why? And some of the stuff he shows me, like, why are you showing me this? I don't know what this is. You need to show this to like a physicist. He also does one on math that I have on YouTube. He's like, this is actually, or not math, sorry, time. And he shows, and he explains time through this thing that kind of talks about what you're talking about, Jay. So check that out.
Well, Matthew,
so yeah, really,
something about what you just said.
I got a great story after Jay's finished here.
So, yeah, something what you just said resonates very much for me, and I, you know, I won't get deep into this, but I had a person call me. I don't know if she wants me to reveal, but I won't. But I'll save it. Jeff and I may bring her on, but she's a very, very deep student of the Essenes.
Oh, nice.
She's guided me into a bunch of stuff that I just recently purchased off Amazon. In fact, I just got them in the mail. I'm very excited. I got the Essene Book of Days.
Oh, nice.
I got Jesus in the Essenes.
Nice.
And then I got the Essene Book of Meditations and Blessings, which is really cool because it's all based on the zodiacal.
How do you know that's not Jesus in the Essenes?
Jesus. No, he did my grass this morning, bro. Sorry.
Okay.
But no, she's told me something about what you just said. The Essenes, like in their system of understanding and awareness, and these are obviously people that vibrate at an incredible frequency. They say the same thing. There is no good or evil. There is no dark or night. There's only love, which is God, and the opposite, which as in the world of duality, it's the polarity of the duality as the Essenes see it. So they don't label like the dark brotherhood or the dark forces. They just say the opposite. So like, it's funny that you said that the higher self, you have a version of the negative and positive, because that would make sense of what the Essenes are saying, which is, again, the polarity of love. So it's the opposite of love, right? And what she was telling me, and this is mind-blowing, and then we'll get back to what you were saying, is she said to me that the war going on right now for our souls, for our spiritual beings, is literally the blotting out of love. There's nothing else. It's not a holy war like good versus evil, dark forces versus light forces, you know, the force, the dark versus the light. It's a war against love. And if you think about it, that's exactly what's going on, right? You got the transhumanism. Again, we summarized this in a podcast that Jeff and I did with Rex Bear last week on the League Project, but they're attacking everything that represents love. Masculinity, femininity, freedom, logic and reason, and then of course spirituality. And all of those things are the true manifestation of love, and that's what is under attack. And so when you start seeing that what it's love, the love frequency vibration, what's under attack, that's what goes back to what you said, the 3 kind acts. Universal loving consciousness. You have to present and live love as a state of being all the time. That's the answer. The answer is if we all just treat everyone with love, kindness, and respect, you know, be grateful, do the random kind of acts. That's how we change the vibration of the earth. That's how the conscious collective increases to where whatever the darkness, you know, again, the polarity and the grid drops and we're all, you know, singing Kumbaya.
Wow. Powerful stuff. touched on something just kind of briefly. You said challenge yourself, or kind of do something that you're afraid. You went out in the dark, and I just realized this just before my spiritual awakening, and not coincidentally, just before my spiritual awakening. I grew up in Florida. I always wanted to scuba dive, but I was absolutely terrified of sharks. So I was out in Lake Tahoe, and I decided that I was going to learn to scuba dive. So I learned to scuba dive, and I decided that I was going to go on a dive with great white sharks. So the guy that's afraid of sharks, I find myself this far free diving from a 17-foot great white shark, doing the thing that scared me the most. And I just realized that after that trip is when, within 6 months of that trip, is when my true spiritual awakening exploded. And you just connected dots for me, brother.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'll tell you
amazing,
what,
man.
I thought I was at the top of the, I thought I was an apex predator until I got in the water with a great white shark.
Wow. That's amazing, man. And yeah, dude, like I don't know what's going on in this reality. I'll tell you that. It's very confusing. But what I'll say is, like, with training with David, with my martial arts practice, with studying these different things, the body is such a good way to see what you're capable of, and it affects the mind. And so when you push yourself into those realms of fear and what the body's capable of, and into nature and things like that, you automatically start to like enhance its innate intelligence. One of the things that the Mayan elder told me is, like, we actually have 20 senses. And that's what they say is, like, the Mayans actually had 20. So it makes me curious about either maybe maximizing the 5 senses, or if there are other senses to activate. But what I want to kind of go back to is, like, what do you guys think? It's fascinating, like, awake or asleep, or the life experience. What I think for me, it's kind of come down to is, like, okay, we're alive. I've researched a lot. I've done a lot. What is the meaning of life, really? How can you be happy? And, what's real and what's true? And where I'm at with it is, I think that it is like a reality to be played and experienced and learned. Like, we could know all this stuff, but, like, you want a spiritual experience. We were at the Mayan Heart Festival, right? And I think, like, with the New Age stuff, a lot of it's very ungrounded. There's, they take a lot of, it's all about 5D and pineal gland and crystals and things like that. And, and I was like, you want a spiritual experience, go swim out in the middle of the lake in the middle of the night and be with you in the water. Like, we're forgetting, like, this grounded element that all of these cultures had. We're so disconnected from all the cycles. And the Mayan elder was telling me about this council of elders he did in 1995. He brought all these elders from North and South America together. And there's this one elder that they really enjoyed. And he said when he went to go have a shower, he's like, your water's dead, left and walked all the way down to find water to go and water. Could you imagine what life would be like if you had no TV, no internet, no communication? You just lived on the land, in the water, with nature. What reality would be like then? So
90% of people, Matt, wouldn't be able to survive. They wouldn't make it. We talk about Jeff and I talk about this all the time.
I would be dead.
Dude, I would be the first guy to just throw all of this stuff into the street in front of a semi truck.
Yeah,
I would love to do it, but I mean, obviously that's not the reality we live in. And the reality we live in is go, churn and burn, create content. If you're an entrepreneur, blah, 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 do what you got to do. But
so
you're right.
So that's what I'm curious about. What is the balance? What I'm curious about is, how do I live a good life? How do I create what's in? So I think we're here to grow and learn and explore authentically, just to, like, try and challenge and be fucking human. And, like, all of this is storyline. ETs, good guys, bad guys. It's so fascinating. And, like, we probably can't change the world, but we can change ourselves. We can influence the world. Right. And when we get more connected with who we are, with our vibration, like, I look at the Shaolin monks that I trained with, I wanted to know if it's possible with what they could do. And they could break stone with 2 fingers. You know how they did that? Years of poking a friggin' tree, hard Qigong, years of exact Qigong meditation, directing energy to do something that we think is impossible. So what are the human limits, but how do we navigate it when we have all of this illusionary bullshit? And so if we're stressing all the time about, like, the next thing and what we're getting, and is it ETs? Are we getting blasted by chemtrails? What's the truth? How can we be content in the search of expanding of what this reality is, but also really honing in on our own joy and our own creation? Does that make sense? So I'm actually curious about what you guys think about that, creating a spiritual connection and optimizing your life, practical tools.
Jay Campbell.
Yep. Oh, I was saying, well, so my answer to that is, because in talking to this amazing woman, it was a very long conversation we had on Friday, and hopefully she will agree to come on our show, and Jeff and I will bring her on. And she's like one of the most profound people that I've ever spoken to in my life. But she said, look, there's only one message. There's only one meaning. It's all the same. We're all souls, divine, again, I always go back to Jeff's statement, divine, free, sovereign souls. If that's what you have and that's what you possess, the only purpose of you being here on this planet in the many physical forms that we manifest as is to give and receive love. God is love. There is nothing more. We can analyze all these things. We can talk about our experiences in our physical form. Sure, there's no question that our lessons here when we're incarnated is to learn and experience. Matthew Ferry says it's to enjoy the experience of the experience. But we know that in physical form, the gift is in the shit, right? The beauty of life is in the contrast. So to me, and in her conversation to me, she said that God, if we're all part of a collective, which we all here on this show believe that we're all connected as one, again, divine, sovereign, free soul beings, then the purpose of our experience is to learn from each other and from what happens to us. And again, we know that we choose to come into this body, into this meat modem, this flesh puppet, to, again, experience things. And I believe that God, and we know that we're all connected through our souls because God is just a fragment of our souls, our higher self. I believe that every time something happens to each of us, regardless of what it is, whether you're a billionaire or a street sweeper, God is learning. It's like a permanent, ongoing Akashic record phenomenon of just constantly storing information. And I think that's really what we're all here for. That's the purpose. But ultimately, it's to love and to feel that loving energy and to, again, obviously give loving energy. And I think that most people today who are of the dark side, again, the polarity side, they just don't have love in their life. And when you don't have love, what is the opposite of love? Fear and hate, which is the same thing. So it's like, if you don't have love, you most likely are in the fear, anxiety, negative vibration. And that's kind of where you resonate at. Again, our friend David Hawkins has the consciousness scale, and he calls it below 200. That's when you're in the fear zone. But the bottom line is that you got to be here and you got to love. And even if you don't have a husband or a wife, maybe you have kids, maybe you even have an animal or animals, but it's about love. It's that simple.
And Matthew, I think you hit on something again, and you've been hanging around with such profound people, and you've been vibrating and thinking and working at such high levels. The things that you just say as throwaway words are incredibly profound. And the first one you said was about challenge yourself. The second one you just said was about play. Play is huge. If we come into this life and we learn that life is a game, Bill Hicks, the comedian, said life is a ride. If we approach life like it's a game and we play, we will naturally be gravitated towards what we're here to do, what's our great basic purpose, what we do all day long. It becomes our work, it becomes our being. And if that is our play, we're right where we need to be. And as long as you're in play, you're going to be in love. As long as you're in play, you're going to be in peace. As long as you're in play, you're going to be at a high vibration and a high frequency. And I think that's one of the keys, is if we can learn to find that place in life where we can play. And when you play, you want to test yourself. You want to challenge yourself. You want to go run with owls. You want to go swim with sharks. You want to sleep on the earth. If we can just get that attitude of, it's not a battle, it's not a war, it's not something that we're trying to stay ahead of the bad guys. We're here to play. And I think we keep coming back here until we learn that it is a game. It's not that serious. We are divine. Right. We are sovereign. We are free. And let's play it to the max. And let's use the old cliche that we've all done in sports, martial artists, all the other stuff that we've done. Let's play to win. Yeah. And the win is not individually. The win is everyone together winning. Yeah, # winning Charlie Sheen to the nth degree.
Should have you guys create a logo winning in a heart, like with the heart of a backdrop. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Well, you guys both said amazing things. And one of the things that I like to say is like Team Earth. But I think that when you listen to a show like yours, I know that when I was really diving deep, trying to figure out what the hell was going on, like part of it is like realizing you're getting manipulated because I was starting like psychology and, you know, so then you're like, okay, well, what if everything that I believed and I was been told to me is manufactured? Then what the heck is the truth? Then you see all this darkness and this opposition, and it can be like overwhelming and challenging. And so that's why I kind of like want to go back to conversations like this, because what I've learned in that is like I got stuck, overwhelmed, and depressed for a couple of years. But what you can do is you can affect your community, and the 3 kind acts is so key. And to give another example, like one of the things David would constantly say is like, do you know a lot of your, and he's like, they don't like the word aliens. He's like, they like star travelers. He goes, do you know your star travelers are, a lot of them are homeless? And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, where do you think they'd be? He's just like, they want to see who of you is compassionate.
Wow.
This is so check this out. I'm trying to figure out if this is real. Okay. So I don't know. So I go down, David comes on I saw him speak twice. He comes on my podcast twice. He's like, you got to come to Maine. I come to Maine, says more crazy stuff. I see some crazy stuff. He has a piece of metal it says A51, and I hit it.
I remember you talking about that.
It doesn't feel like anything I've felt before. There could be metals I'm not familiar with, but this thing was weird. And I was like, how did you get that? He's like, I walked in and grabbed it. I was like, what? I was like, all right. So anyway, I see weird stuff. He says weird stuff. That's where he tells me Atlantis was a spaceship, all other kind of madness. And I was like, okay. And he's like, this is crazy. He's just like, what about all the stuff that you told me about your theories? He's like, those are crazy too. And I was like, yeah, fair. Those are pretty crazy. So he just has one specific wild story that's very Star Trek, Star Wars. Anyway, one of the things he says is you're homeless. A lot of them are star travelers. I get back and I go take my mom out for lunch at a city about 20 minutes away because she'd want to go into that town. Hadn't been there before. We get out. I tell her about the homeless thing. We're driving out. There's a guy sitting there. And she goes, Matt, go give him $20. First of all, myself or my mom wouldn't give a homeless guy $20, not in the past, because, you know, you got to give the dollar. It's got to be the right amount of change, and it's got to be a quick drive by. It can't be slowing down. You can't go out of your way. So do 3 kind acts, go out of your way to do it. So I was like, okay. So I was like, this is your kindness. You go do it. My mom gets out of the car, gives this guy $20. The first thing he says, he goes, oh my God, thank you so much. This is my first time in this universe. My mom.
No way. You're lying.
I say, yeah, she just looks at me and I just go, this is what I'm talking about. What do I do with this stuff? Like reality, I'll do things like this. And I like say it in my, I don't know. Then reality, something like that will happen. And I'm like, I guess I got to register it because that's really frigged up. He goes on for like 5 minutes about his brother being over there, the solar system he came from, sheer madness. He just seemed like you would think he was a crazy person. That's what anyone would think, is just this guy's a crazy person.
So Matt, that's actually the part of this.
Holy crap.
But that's,
hold on.
that's actually a part of this.
Jay, hold on a second. Matt, finish up.
Let me just finish the story, and then you can, there's only one small part. So that my mom gets in the car, right? She get his name because you want to get their name too, right? He's like, that's part of it. Like you don't give them the dollar and they don't exist. Hey, what's your name? How are you? Be a friggin' human. Get his name, says what I can't remember what it was, but we're about to drive away and he just goes in. He goes, I'm not lying. That's what he says. My mom is just like, what the hell? And I was like, Mom, this is the shit that I have to deal with. I have no idea what is going on, but I'm just following the rabbit holes. So go ahead, Jay. That's the end of the
I was
story.
just going to say, I do believe that this is the test, that, you know, you never know who you're going to come upon. And everything here is the opposite of the truth. I think anyone who's aware and consciously, elevated at this point knows that we're literally living in a world of complete opposites. You know,
it's the inverse.
So real.
It's the upside down.
Yeah, it's the upside down. So there's no reason to think. And I guess maybe I'm just blessed because I've always resonated like help. Like I don't think there's ever been a time in my life, maybe with the exception where I didn't even have money in my car, but I always have change in my front thing, right? So if I don't even have cash or bills, I never not give to those people. And I have a feeling that that's probably why my life has gone in the way it has. Sure, I've collapsed and hit rock bottom and my story is very well known, but I've always donated to those people because in the back of my head, I always thought like, you never know.
And then another key, Matthew, is if you're going to do 3 kind acts a day, You actually have to be out among at least 3 different people. And me, I can get bunker mentality, making a podcast, studying for a podcast. And somebody said to me the other day, you haven't been out in like 3 weeks. I've just been grinding and grinding. And when I start right now doing 3 kayaks every day, that means I'm going to have to get out and see at least 3 people, right? So that's important.
Yeah, totally. And like, I had to look at, I was like, I only know paying it forward. Like, what else can I do? And he's like, well, asking someone's name is a kind act. Listening, telling a note to a friend, picking up a piece of trash on the street. Like, imagine everybody just picked up like in Japan, maybe Japan are like the ETs, you know what I mean? They've already got it sorted out and they're just kind of watching us confused, hopefully like not coming over here. But I wanted
to
pick up all
their trash in Japan.
We can't have too many of them here. They're going to mess up our little society that we've got going, but it's a culture. And I just wanted to share that because I think it can be overwhelming. And like, we want to change the world. We want to go into this new way, right? And it starts with those acts in the community. And if you wake up and you see, like, I'm reminded of the Alan Watts thing. He's like, when you realize you're going to die, either life becomes deathly serious or a game. And so if you can play, be involved in the mystery and know for sure you're not going to figure it out. What you know is like so far beyond. So you're in the mystery. You want this. Go with it with a playful attitude, pursue what you like, and make an impact with the people around you on a daily basis. Global warming, poverty, the atrocities, all that. If you get an option to push a button or make an impact, go for it. But I think that for me and many people, it's like overwhelming and we don't do the small things and it makes the life not as enjoyable. Right. And I don't think we need to do that to ourselves. And I did that to myself for a long time. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of like peace. And like, to give an example, I worked on the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, which they did a inquiry in human trafficking, the sex trade, and ritual satanic sacrifice. And I volunteered on that for like 3 months. Their videos are going mega viral. Check them out, itnj.org. You can sign the petition. But that was an opportunity to help because I set the intention to be of the highest service possible, but I'm also here to explore, to snowboard, to be a part of nature. You know what I mean? I like want to do these amazing things. And so it's like, just go swim. You get to be alive. Just go with sharks. You don't always have to be thinking about all the problems of the world. I think that's a miss too. And I think it can be overwhelming. We're in the YouTube rabbit holes, but we just go outside, bud. Just look at the moon. David would be like, you want a spiritual experience here? We'll go into the forest and we'll just leave you there.
And the fear is over. The fear is manufactured too. I was in the water with those great whites and we were in the cage, out of the cage, but over a whole 6 days, sometimes in the cage, sometimes out of the cage, I was probably in the water at least 24 hours total. And there wasn't but maybe 15 minutes where I thought, ooh, I might have been in trouble with one of those sharks. And another amazing thing, when you're this close to a great white shark, their eyes are as blue as mine. So the fear is overrated. Yeah.
And that's it, man. It can be, do something that makes you afraid. Interact with your community. I saw a quote come up. I can't remember who it was from. It's like by Steve-O or something like that. Or somebody goes, but it goes, if you turn off the news and talk to your neighbor, the world isn't as bad as they're making it out to be.
It's not. So good. That's great stuff. Great.
Hey, I do have to ask Matt one question for Gary Carlson because he texted me earlier today. He wanted me to ask you this because he's asking people in the truth community this question. So he wants your answer. Do you feel, going back to like aliens, and maybe this is a question you can ask David Lone Bear too. Do you feel that the majority of the elite, quote unquote, people, whether they're clones or real or both or whatever, are not actual humans, and that there are some form of entity? Again, we talk about archons and all this stuff here, but he wanted me to ask you that question. What do you think the majority of the elites that run this show are? Do you think they're human or non-human?
Well, that's a really good question.
I mean, your opinion. I don't think there's a right.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't say I would be an expert, but I'll tell you some of the things I heard and what I feel. I feel like ultimately, first of all, that elite thing, like, and what's happening in that structure, like, I wouldn't concern myself too much there all the time because I'm not going to be able to influence it. That's kind of like that thing of like, how do I change it? But now if I think about it, right? Because it's like, what if it's reptilians? What if it's demigods? What if it's Hercules? What if I don't know if they're so far beyond me. I don't know what I can change of that. But I know what I can change within myself. So that's the first thing. It's a very fascinating question. But I did hear David and Clifford talk about shapeshifters and say they're very, very real. And I also, he was educating me. I think the first government treaty, what you guys would know the answer. Who was the first government
Eisenhower
treaty?
had a treaty. Yeah, Eisenhower.
And it might have been one before that, but that was how many. Apparently, what Clifford and David told me was it's how many humans they were allowed to take.
And
this negotiation
the Greys
between
violated it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and apparently it got violated.
Real.
And apparently there's somebody who's enforcing that now, and it's a part of what's going on. So what the hell does it do with that? And both of them are aware of this. So that's really messed up stuff. But also, like, it's kind of like I used a duck analogy because he goes, what do you care about the duck population? Right. He's like, some of them are helping the duck population. Some of them are actually eating them. Right. And that's what we do. He's just like, you're not the ultimate, but you do have an opportunity as an individual. You are a spiritual sovereign being.
Right.
And you do have an opportunity to expand and create this reality, like as you wish, like as you can create within yourself with all of that universe within you. So I think that there are, from what I can deduce, and I read a book called Mad Bear, which is about this guy, which was interesting enough, went to the Parliament of World Religions with this Native American elder. I go to the Parliament of Religions with a Native American elder. The guy in the book writes about this guy. It's the same way that I see David. He's not like, all of a sudden in the book, one of the kids dies. He brings him back to life and doesn't talk about it. He does the most crazy spiritual, magical shit and doesn't ever bring it up or talk about it. It just happens. And it's not about that. It's the guy, like a lot of his medicine was talking to people, was making them laugh, was interacting with the environment. And I see David a lot like that too. And he's also a magician. And so that's why in the article I'm writing about the Parliament of World Religions is about black magic, about saying that you're, this God or this thing, but not telling them the trick. So in that book anyway, they talk about the little people, and Clifford knows about the little people. Clifford also knows about the ant people, and David and the Mayan elder and Clifford, all three elders are like, they're here. They're just, the Mayan elder said, he goes, the answer is so easy. He's like, what happened to the Mayan civilization? He's just like, they realized you were coming and they couldn't do anything about it. So they just changed frequency and went somewhere else. He's like, it's that simple. Yeah. It's like, what? And he says it's so nonchalant.
Neanderthals did the same thing.
Could be. And, this Mayan elder talks about, those whirling dervishes people. He's like, when I was younger, I went out to study with them. We couldn't speak English. We couldn't communicate. And he said, one day they invite me to this thing and they spin and spin and spin and spin. And then they're off the ground. They're like 4 feet off the ground. And I went like this. I was like, oh my God. He's like, I made that face, but way crazier. I was like, what is happening? And he's like, I realized that this information is there. And maybe if we're like, Super Mario level 1 and 2 and 3, it's our own. It's always got to be your own game. It's your own consciousness. Yeah. It's always your own game, no matter what. And so but what you get to control though is your actions, and you can mull over your perceptions. So you get those choices, in your guts if it's good or bad. And the idea is that you move forward toward, David always says, just do something. And when I was with the Shaolin monks, it's do something, get feedback, do something, get involved in the mystery, and just pursue your passions. But when you test the body, you go into nature, you do shit that scares you, you start to really understand the difference between body and that intelligence and what this mother is capable of, mind and how weak or strong it is, and spirit is this thing that overcomes, and it's just like something beyond. In martial arts, they burn the body out. They make you do the thing over and over and over until you cannot do it. You can do like this 100 times. You've done it 2,000. All of a sudden, boom, something comes through you. And I've had this. And every time I've had it, I did not want to do the thing to get there. It was excruciating, but I got there. And then I was like, oh, and then you're like, what the hell? And it's just like, this is the force that's in you. Like, that's how powerful you are. But if you were that powerful playing this game, it wouldn't be any fun because you'd have all the cheat codes. You'd just be like, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's no mystery. You're just like the king. So that's a rant.
That was good stuff. Matthew Belair, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you, avail themselves of the great help that you afford to folks.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show again. It's always a privilege and an honor to be with you boys. And thank you so much for the work you're doing and research, and just a lot of respect for you both. If you guys want to check out my stuff, just go to mattbelair.com. There's a podcast, over 200 episodes of awesome content. If you go to masters-of-flow, you can get a free copy of Zen Athlete ebook and a guided hypnotic hypnosis, which basically it sounds, I didn't word that correctly, but it hypnotizes you into your heart and uses your heart's intelligence to get a life direction. It's not a life purpose.
Wow.
It's which way do you want to go? And the heart knows it's eternal. It's a lot smarter than your mind. So that's what it allows you to do. So you can wake up in the mystery. None of us know if we're going to succeed. It's just like moving towards something that you're passionate about. So you can get that for free over there. And then I really invite people, just implore people to do the kindness challenge. And for the people who've done it, that universal wink, like that homeless guy saying, I'm not in this universe. It's crap like that only happens to you. And you're just like, no one will believe you. Yeah. Everyone will think you're nuts. Both times I saw UFOs and have them on films, nobody believes me. Like a few people, they don't give a crap, but like they were for me. The thing was like, one of them again was 2 days after I talked to David. He's just like, look at the sky tonight. You may or may not see something. Check out UFO Arco Santi, friggin' orb above my head. Wasn't a ship, wasn't making a sound. It looked like the Illuminati triangle and just beams of light. And it was right above my head and it scared the crap out of me. And when it scared me, it backed up and I looked at it for 40 minutes by myself. What the hell was that? Wow. And then it disappeared.
Matthew, do you think we need to move from thinking to feeling?
Definitely.
Yeah, like you use logic, like the way that I gave an example to one of my clients the other day was just like the conscious mind has to follow the road and like the turns, but the heart and the unconscious and the universe knows the whole map. You're totally cool. It knows the whole thing. So you have to have the courage to move towards what feels good, and you use the mind to navigate the issues as they come. But what happens is we are afraid. We need food, water, shelter. We need money. We go find the most secure thing to get the money, to get the food. Now we're not living in our passion at all. So how can we switch that on its head to start from that? You don't have to totally abandon that. But even if you add 10%, 20%, 30%, that's going to be you being you in like the rainforest. Maybe you're a monkey pretending to be a goat, right? And you hate life because you're being a goat, but you just want to be a monkey. Go be a monkey first, then figure out the money after. But you might have to let go a lot of the materialism. And in any awakening story, look at the Zen 10 bulls, the tarot, things like that. Got to get over materialism. But as you test yourself, move towards what you're passionate about, all of the forest, the rainforest, the universe is on your side because that force is in you and it wants to support you because it helps the entire scope, right? The monkey helps the ecosystem by being a monkey, not pretending to be a goat. It's crap goat.
Exactly.
So feel into it and then have the courage to go through. But everybody has to go through their own thing. You can connect with God and spirit yourself. You know what you're passionate about. Just start that direction. Right. The one practice when we talked about those, journal every single day. Like David will talk about like the spirit guides. You got to write it down or ask out loud because you're a spiritually sovereign being that can't tell, they can't help you. Journaling helps you get it out, refine your vision. It's something that I've found a common theme with all the people I podcast with. And another one for your third eye awakening, candle meditation, dark room, white candle, just stare at the blue flame. Do this every day for a month. And something weird might happen too. So you do the kindness challenge, and you will most likely get a universal wink. And I've been getting some stories back from people in the podcast, be like, you'll never believe this. I was like, I bet you will, but I cannot hear about the crazy crap that happened to you.
That's awesome.
That is great. That is great. Jay, we say it every week. We're always like, oh man, this might be the best podcast we've ever done. And we keep saying it week after week after week. Tell people where they get a hold of Jay Campbell's great stuff.
So just real quick, I definitely want to throw a shout out to the truth community, to all you guys, obviously on The Last Stand and followers of Jeffrey. Next Thursday, so not this coming Thursday, but the last Thursday of the month, the 31st, I am doing a webinar with Dr. Jim Meehan, who's one of the most outspoken leading anti-vaccination people in the world. And we are going to drop the hammer on the vaccination world. We are going to let everyone know the truth. We may be dead by next Friday, so you guys should definitely check out this video or check out this webinar when it releases. You can go to totrevolution.com /vaccination-webinar. So again, totrevolution.com /vaccination-webinar. And it's going to be amazing. I mean, Jim is followed by, like 50 or 60,000 people on Facebook. He's one of the leading voices in this, and he's already put together the itinerary, and it's going to be bomb, dude. We're going to really go after the CDC and the pharmaceutical industry.
Looking forward to that. Matthew, always an honor and a privilege to have you with us. Almost as much as an honor and privilege is to have all these people here in this chat room. Thank you very much for being here. Gentlemen, sit there 1 second, please, so I can say goodbye to you personally.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate every one of you in the chat room. For Matthew Belair, our special guest, for Jay Campbell, my co-host, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, reminding you we are the last generation of real humans. So we might as well have some fun with it, right? Let's play and let's unindoctrinate ourselves. We'll see you again next week, and go and make sure you check out Matt's website and Jay's website, and you know where to find me. You're right here, One Stop Heresy at the Christian Whistleblower YouTube channel. We'll talk to you again real soon, ladies and gentlemen.